Hey everyone, it's Dr. Tara. We are going live in just a few seconds, but welcome to Dr. Tara Tuesdays. I am so excited to be here as always. I'm so excited to begin to welcome you all into this space. This is our third and final conversation in our breast cancer awareness series, where I have been sharing bits and pieces about my recent journey to survivorship with breast cancer. And this conversation, especially, is so near and dear to my heart because this conversation really is one of the reasons why I am here, why I'm still standing. And so I am so excited to have two of my closest friends, Zai and Nakeia, waiting to join us as we talk about a round of applause. Give the caregivers some. I would love to know who is joining me this evening. Feel free to post who you are in the comments and where you're from. But we'll get started in just a few seconds. I'm going to bring them to the stage. And again, for this intimate conversation that I am hoping to get through without too many tears, I made an advertisement post for today's conversation around the importance of a village and the role of caretakers. And I barely got through it without like sobbing like a baby, because not only do the pictures represent a moment in time, but they also represent relationships. And I think for me, this conversation is so near and dear to my heart because it really showed like the power of, oh, we're about to start crying, the power of relationships. Because I made it through the first two conversations without tears. But this one, I think, really just hits home for me because as I have said too, I think everybody who has been a part of my village, I would not, I have no doubt in my mind that I would not have made it through one of the most difficult times in my life without my village. Hey, Sherrod, who is also a part of my village. You all can see her on that reel. She came down from Philadelphia to cut my hair. I wasn't ready to go bald just yet, and also made me wigs, which I was not able to wear any of them because I have no eyebrows, and I didn't know you need eyebrows to wear wigs. and because chemo gave me immense hot flashes, so they would have been coming off anyway. But before we jump into all of that, I want to introduce both Zai and Nakeia, again, who have been pivotal parts of my village. And so just allowing you all to introduce yourselves, where you're from, and I think we'll just let's allow you to introduce yourselves, and then after you do that, I'll kick it off with some questions.
Ty, you want to
let's start with you.
Hey everybody, I'm Zai. Hey Sherrod. And I have known Tara her and I have been friends since Morgan. So I say 20 years. We keep saying 20 years. At this point, we've been out of Morgan for almost like 22 years.
Yes.
So we've been friends for, a little over 20 years. Our two youngest, actually Tara's oldest and my youngest are 3 weeks apart. And so we've had a long sisterhood in this experience of friendship, and a long friendship over several years. And I love Tara very much. And so I was nervous and excited because I overthink everything. And I'm like, oh, last time we had a live, the whole thing shut down. So I was like, let me not be the one to mess it up this time. But excited to be on here today to share our stories in our time together, and really was one of the most difficult moments, of course, in Tara's life, probably the most difficult moment. And then as a friend, in this process, what I've learned is that when you have a friend that is so close and experiencing it, a lot of this, you experience it vicariously. So a lot of the struggle and the day-to-day emotional turmoil and just the challenge of it is something that I felt very intimately and deeply just in sharing a friendship. And so glad to talk about that experience with everyone today.
Thanks, Nakeia.
I'm Nakeia. Tara and I met just like 6 years ago now. It feels like I've known her so much longer, but we met in 2019 and sort of became fast friends. I feel like she's a mirror for me in a lot of ways. And through a lot of life, and we just have a good time. We laugh a lot together, but we also cry together. We complain together. We do all the things, and she's really become such an amazing sister friend. If you know us closely, you know that we refer to each other as each other's wife. Every woman should have one, and Tara is that person for me who is a who sees me, like really sees me, and is the friend that like I didn't know I needed, right? She's a friend like the same in the same way that I'm a friend, and I didn't know I needed that kind of a friend. And so it's been a really huge blessing to have her in my life. And yeah, I don't know what this conversation is going to bring up. I'm a little nervous. And so I have my wine.
there we there we go. And I have my tea. So I'm going to actually start off with how I came to tell people. So I asked both Zai and Nakeia to be with me for this conversation today because they both found out about my cancer diagnosis within, I would want to say within minutes of me finding out. For those of you who have been with me for this 3-part series, I found out that I had cancer before the biopsy was even done. So let me set the stage. So it was a Monday, September 23rd, and I had a ultrasound and mammogram appointment at 7:30 in the morning. And the reason why I remember this is because at 10 a.m. that same morning, Zai and I were to facilitate a leadership training for one of our largest client contracts. So I found out I had cancer around 8:15. Could not get myself to leave the doctor's office. Me and the doctor were crying. The nurse had to come inside, and she said, "Is there anyone that you can call?" And I said, "Well, let me call my sister." And I called Nakeia. She thought literally that someone had died by how deeply I was sobbing. And she actually beat me to my house. As I was pulling up, she was walking up the sidewalk. As Black women do, got myself together and went on the computer and private messaged Zai, like as she is getting ready to present to our client partners and lead them through this retreat session, saying like, I don't know how useful and helpful I am going to be because I just found out I had breast cancer. And she was able, she and another sister of mine, Keena, my BFF, literally led the retreat. And I would go downstairs, cry to the people who were downstairs, go to the bathroom, and then go back up and facilitate the retreat process. And so I know what the news was like for me. But I think one of the things that people don't often talk about is what hearing the news is like for the village, right? Like what mode that puts you all in, how you have to, and I want to honor like how you have to put your feelings to the side or not put your feelings to the side to, come to the aid of the person in need. And so I just want to talk to you all about like, what was that? What was, I'm calling you, I'm DMing you, I have cancer. What was that experience like for the both of you? Because y'all were there from day one, from diagnoses.
I mean, it was a lot of shock because I'm used to you calling with a thing. I think I had this. And so I think when you initially mentioned that the day before, was it the day before when you told me like the potential or you felt something or something like that, and that, you had gone to your doctor and your doctor, really didn't think that that was it. And, you had a mammogram earlier that year, all this stuff. And I just tend to err.
I know, like I had a mammogram and was called back to do the density one, like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You had, like an intense one. And so, and I just tend to err always on the side with health related things, on the side of like, it's fine. Like, I am never like planning the funeral or thinking that it's going to be like the worst case scenario. And so I was actually very surprised. And I was really surprised, for you to call me like that, like worked up, because I knew you weren't having a biopsy yet. Right. And so it was all of these things that were just like, no, this like can't be. But you were so upset. I don't even know how I understood what you said, honestly, but I did. And that, like, I just knew I had to like get to where you were. Like, I that was like my shock drove me to action. So initially it was like shock and still hopeful. Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't truly believe that like that was the answer.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if you remember that day, but
yeah, I remember the day we had a training, and so you told me via text message.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
In the middle, it was like about to go on the training, but you said I need to talk to you. I don't remember. I think you did say it actually in a text message, and I think like Black and we compartmentalize. So for me, I was having to go into a presentation, like think in the next 20 minutes. And so my immediate thought was, well, maybe this is something, maybe I didn't read it correctly. I don't think I fully really digested the information, because I needed to immediately go into like, hi, I'm Zy Richardson. I'm here. Right. So I had to go into being on. So I really didn't fully get the impact of it. And then after we then spoke, and that's when my immediate was just to listen. My reaction was shock. And when I get shocked, I get quiet. So I don't really have I wouldn't even say encouragement. It would just be, I'm just listening. So I'm listening as you're describing what the doctor said, the time you saw the doctor, and you described the mammogram, the results, which you were crying in the office. And so at that moment, the immediate I was very quiet. And I didn't know what to do with the information, and I didn't really know how to feel. So initially, my first thought is just to be not numb, but just quiet and try to understand, am I really, like, it's a processing for me to really fully grasp all that's happening at this very moment. And so my immediate response was just to be somewhat silent and in shock.
Mm-hmm.
Then I was also,
go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Just seeing you like, again, like you mentioned, like come in the house, like you're clearly like visibly upset when you come in the house, and then you're like, all right, I gotta go upstairs and get on this training. It was just like, what the F? It was bizarre. Like, right. It was bizarre because I saw you like transform, like turn on another part, and like you went upstairs, I was still downstairs, but I could hear you, and I'm like, she is talking like a whole ass professional right now. And like that was wild and probably should be studied.
And then I come back downstairs and be like,
oh. Yeah, and then come back downstairs and fall apart all over again. Right. It was like, this needs to be studied.
No. Like, and then you were on the call. I remember you got on the call. You were trying to give us all directions. And I was like, what is happening? You were like, you were giving all these directions of what we should do. And then Keena was on the call. So me and Keena are trying to make sense. And then we're texting each other back and forth. And then the client is on the other end. And I think we were just like, wait, you're giving all these directions. You just said cancer. And then it was just so many things happening in 12 minutes. Because we hadn't started yet. So we still have to start the presentation. And so it was just like, there is a lot happening. Let's shelve it for now and come back to it.
Mm-hmm. Even you saying it was like 8:00 in the morning, and then this presentation was at 10. When you said that, when you started the call, I was like, what? Mm-hmm. All of this went on by 10 a.m. It felt like 4:00 in the afternoon. I'm not even joking when I got to your house. And so just now when you said it, I was like, what?
No, it was, because it was an all day training. It went from 10 to 3. Mm-hmm. And so hearing that, so again, for those of you who don't know, typically how a breast cancer diagnosis comes to be is you feel something, you have a mammogram, you have a mammogram, and then that leads to an ultrasound. An ultrasound is a little bit more advanced. and like locating if there's a tumor, like the size, and then there's a biopsy, which Nakeia is talking about. Again, I was diagnosed before the biopsy even happened. And hey, Nike. And that upset a lot of people in my village because typically you have the biopsy, which yields the results. And so I had the biopsy 2 days later. And I was telling Nakeia, like, they're already talking to me about, come back. And Nakeia was pretty pissed. And so she went with me to the biopsy appointment and she got to see firsthand. They welcomed me like, oh, yeah, you had a rough time. Don't worry. We're going to take good care of you through this process. And Nakeia, you were like, we don't even know if she, if she has it yet. And so the biopsy happened that Wednesday. And they said that they would get me the results usually within 24 to 48 hours. So for the next 24 hours, I was at Nakeia's house waiting. We didn't get the results on Thursday. The results came that Friday without any real clear explanation. It was just the scientific biopsy results, right? And we were able to call the office. And Nakeia saw something that said carcinoma. I was like, oh, that's cancer. That means cancer. And it didn't have a stage. It had a grade. And so we were Dr. Google and research assistant, like, is grade the same thing? Is texture this? Does it mean this? And we began to see like it was already ruled out estrogen and progesterone positive. And so automatically what that means is that it's going to be sent out for further testing to see if it's HER2 positive or negative or triple negative, meaning that it's not responsive to any type of hormones, estrogen, progesterone, or a combination of the two. And so we got the results back, I think about a week or two later, that it was triple negative. And then 2 weeks after that, found out that I had cancer in the other breast that was estrogen positive. But by then I was a pro. The doctor was like, again, told me during the ultrasound, not the biopsy, like, oh, I would be surprised. And I was like, I know if it's not cancer, right? I was ready to rock and roll. And from there, it was a whirlwind. I was diagnosed officially September 27th. And I started chemo October 18th. In the span of 3 weeks, I had a minor surgery to put the port in place. I had, I want to say, doctor's appointments like every 3 days. I was in the doctor's office. And literally from the biopsy appointment through the end of chemo, I was not by myself, right? Someone was with me at every appointment taking notes. Someone was with me like to process, like if they weren't there in the office with me, they were with me. They were with me afterwards to kind of debrief. And so, so kind of catching everybody up to speed. And so we get to the start of chemo and Zai, I don't even think I asked her. She was like, I'm going with you to the first chemo appointment. And so that was on October 18th. And all I remember about that day, like I packed my bag. My assistant had sent me a wonderful like care package note. And so I had like a blanket set up and a pillow because they tell you to prepare for 4 or 5 hours. So I didn't know before you receive chemo, you have to get medicated. Like your body has to receive pre-med so that, because chemo is toxic to the body, so that your body won't fully go into shock or have a lot of allergic reactions. So for about an hour, you're getting pre-medicated. So you get Benadryl and an IV, which became one of my favorite things, and also a ton of steroids, so you won't have a lot of the allergic reactions. But backing up, October 18th, Friday, my chemo appointments were on Fridays at 7 a.m., 7:30 a.m. Zai lives about 30 minutes away. She got here at 6:45 a.m. Eyes swollen. I was like,
oh, that's right. I forgot about that. That's right.
And when she came, when I opened the door, like we both just started crying, and I asked her if she wanted to go to Mexico instead, and so she said no, and so she took me to my first appointment. And Zai, you were really the one. So let me back up. When I shared with people who I trusted with this information, right? Because this is a lot to hold. I actually made a WhatsApp video and I sent it out to everyone. Just telling them what I needed and how I needed to be cared for. Unfortunately, cancer is not uncommon. Like everybody has a cancer story, whether it's a personal, relationship or someone that they know. And I was being really like bombarded. Like and we know how the internet works. You Google something and now I'm seeing all these ads for cancer medications and all of these things. And it was just so overwhelming. And so I made a video and I sent it to my village and they responded so beautifully and respected and honored like my wishes. Like I shared with them that they don't tell me anyone else's cancer journey because this is heavy. This was scary. The doctors already made my diagnosis scary because of the type of cancer I had. And, what I really needed from them, I remember putting in there, like if you have any books or movies that you're watching, and Sherrod and I would exchange TikToks, but to kind of set the stage. But I also was very clear. Initially, I thought like I was never going to go public with this. This is something that I just wanted to get through. And not share. And when we got to chemo, Zai whips out her camera. And I remember I have like my Morgan State blanket over top and she begins filming and like interviewing the nurse. Right. And so I was like, Zai, what are you doing? And you were like, and you literally said to me, like, I want to show you this when you're through. Like, I'm doing this for when you're through. And it means so much to me now, but like in the moment it didn't land. But like, why was that important for you?
First, very simply, I feel like it made the chemo experience less. Like we weren't focusing on what was happening. It gave it some lightheartedness. Mm-hmm. It gave us moments to just chit chat and laugh, even though we're sitting in this chair and it's very cold in the room. It's freezing. Yeah. So we just sort of, it brought some levity to a very serious and difficult moment. That was first. And then I just feel like when you have an experience like that, all of us, that it's helpful to see the process, just to document it as you're experiencing it, because as you go through it and once you get through it, it just is like a reflection and a beautiful moment to go back and reflect on and see how far you've come. Because in the moment, it's difficult for us to notice our progress. And it's difficult for us to accept like how difficult it is and how challenging it is and how funny sometimes it is and how like laughter and love and excitement, all of that can happen in a very difficult experience. Mm-hmm. And so I just felt like this is a way that we not only can use it as levity, but it's a way that we're going to remember this a year from now, 6 months from now, and we're going to appreciate that this moment happened. And you can't get moments back. Mm-hmm. So it's not like you can set the stage, but certain moments you can't relive. You can't stage a moment. So the first chemo experience, the first day at the first syringe, the first chair, the first moment, you can't get that moment back. So unless you document it, that's the only way to relive it and really appreciate the full scale of what that moment represents.
Mm-hmm. Nakeia, did you want to add anything? I see you nodding your head.
Oh, and it made for a very hilarious opening to your recap.
Yes.
Where she asked you, like, what would you like to share about chemo, about your chemo journey? And you're like, I don't recommend it. Okay. No. And and I think that moment, even though that was the first session and on your journey, it was particularly funny to me and meaningful to me, poignant to me, because you did not lose your sense of humor at any point in this process. Like, you were always holding laughter with your tears, like always. There was always something you were laughing about or making a joke about, making other people laugh throughout the whole process. So anybody who sees that video, sees what you really were like in the process,
Yes. Exactly. I remember we were talking to the nurse. We were like, what was the nurse name?
JP.
We were like, JP, can you be in the interview? We're about to ask you some questions. Are you ready for the question? And I knew that I could not prep. I could not ask you in advance. I had to just do it, because if I would have asked you, you would have gave me a litany of questions. You would have wanted to understand it, how it's going to be used. You would have did all those isms. So it was just like, let's just do it. And turn it on before I ask. Also, don't turn it on immediately, and then it's on. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
So from that first chemo session, Zai also was instrumental in creating our WhatsApp group, and it was called Tara's It's Go. Remember, one of my slogans was "It's Go Time." Yeah, let's go, right? It's Go Tara's It's Go Time peeps, and it was a group of about 15 people. Some of them are on here. And one of the things that stood out to me, so chemo was every Friday, again, 7 a.m. I had to be in Timonium, Maryland, which is about 15 minutes from my house. But again, my friends live all throughout Baltimore. And I was never late for an appointment. And at the chemo session, the first chemo session, Zai, you did ask my permission, like, well, do you mind if I reach out to all the people that you sent this video to, just because I was telling her, everybody is kind of asking me, what is it that I need? And one of the things, and we'll talk about this as caregivers too, like, I didn't know what I needed, right? Like, this is all an experience for me. And so Zai, you really took the reign and like created this group of people. And the thing that stood out to me, so chemo was every week, beginning October 18th and ending on March the 7th. By October, I think 25th, or even November the 1st, all of the chemo slots were filled. Every single one. And you all did it in a way where every Friday was taken. And then also every weekend for food was also covered, right? So I had a chemo buddy, somebody who would take and sit with me for the 5 hours in chemo. And then either they or someone else would be responsible for preparing food from me and my family. Hey, Kathy, over that weekend. And I was not a part of that group. Thankfully, because I didn't, I have to honor my own control limits. And so I felt it was best for me not to be a part of that group. But one of the things that I would hear from everyone in that group was like, how powerful, how positive. One of the things that became a running thing for each group is whoever was with me that Friday would take a picture and put it in the group chat. And that would spark conversation. I know one of the things that somebody would say, like, well, I can do mornings sometimes, but can somebody else do pickup? And then recently somebody said, Tara, you don't know how much God was in that chat, like was in that group. Because there was never any like animosity or frustration. Like it felt to me like you all became caregivers of each other too in that space. And so can either of you speak to that, like as a caregiver, how that group also created a village for you all, so it didn't fall, just on the two of you or one of you during this process?
I mean, it never felt like it wasn't a thing. And when you brought up the WhatsApp group and on the back end before we started this, and both me and Zai like looked blank, like because it really was not a thing. Like it just fell together. It wasn't a lot of push and pull or like it just wasn't a thing. There was an easy rhythm and a flow. It just all came together. Everybody filled out the thing. Everybody would send the picture. I remember my first day, I didn't send the pictures right away. And Dr. Doty, Sergeant of Arms, was like, you haven't sent the pictures yet. And I think we hadn't even left the facility, or we had just left the facility and got to our house. You have not sent pictures yet. So, we either got ourselves together or you got us together.
Exactly. She was in the text message like, did you remember this? Oh, let me send.
Did you send? Right. So as she's eating her ice chips, finishing up her session or whatever. And so, but yeah, it was easy. There was not really a lift.
Yeah,
so, clearly God was there.
That's beautiful too. Yeah, it didn't feel hard. Like it felt very easy. And I think also what made it really dope is that a lot of the women knew each other. So there was like familiarity already built in. Very few people did not have an association with another woman in the group. So like Kathy's on the call and Miss Sherrod is my hairstyle. We love Sherrod. Then Keena created the sheet. And so it was, and then like, I think once somebody I pinned it, but didn't know how to pin it. And Shamia jumped in, she's in the chat. Oh, here goes the pin. So everybody would just naturally just flow in. And then it started to become like an expectation. You started to look forward, like, okay, Tara's going to chemo, who's taking to her? And then if somebody, I remember the one time we had to split, Dominique wasn't able to go to a shift, and so somebody jumped in on the morning. I think her and another woman split. And so it just became this effortless, not even a project, because it didn't feel like a lift of a project. It just felt like women who sincerely love and care about you, Tara, coming together in a very difficult moment to support you in a very meaningful way because they love you and they care about you. And so it's almost like the deliverables were like, you go to chemo, you say chemo started, you say
Oh, right.
you send your picture after it's done. And then when Tara gets home, you say Tara is home. And so those became like the hidden steps that everyone followed on their own, no matter who went. Those 4 moments were like milestones that just sort of carried out to everybody. And then when she had other moments, like when Sherrod did her hair, she would give us updates. And then when we noticed that it was like all chemo focused, then we started to say, okay, let's share some of the other moments of Tara. So when Tara would go get, I think you went to the plastic surgeon that day, we start sharing pictures that were not just chemo, but just like Tara out and about, so that people can see her as she's going through the process, living in addition to chemo. So yeah, it was like this it's funny to even think about it because I just didn't think about it in that way. It really became this like punctuated, very diligent, disciplined effort organically on its own, without no instruction, without any kind of directive. Keena made a chart. Keena pinned a chart. The shifts were taken within a day.
Yeah.
Maybe like a couple of days. And then no shift was missed. There was never a time when chemo, it was like a no-show. There was never a no-show. There was never a call out. It was like you knew in advance if a person had to switch. So it was just all these moments looking back that happened in the moment that I didn't even think about, that really reflect on just I think the beauty of Utah, to have such a supportive group of women around you that love and care for you in such a beautiful way that it was just really, I think it was just so helpful. And just honestly, I don't think I've ever experienced anything like it in that way.
Thank you. Somebody asked a question, like, as caregivers, how did you know, like, what to say when there are no words? I think I got the question right. Like, how do you know how to show up, right? If a person is resistant. Like, I know, we laugh and joke, but like some days, like, I didn't feel like being bothered. It was too much. I know Nakeia would just show up at my house. Zai will also just show up. Like, I haven't seen you, I'm going to show up. But if someone is, internalizing this process, right? Like, as a caregiver, how did you all navigate that, or what advice would you give to people who are currently in that situation? What do I do? What do I say? I don't have the words to say.
I would say I'm probably not like great at like when people are in spaces where they might check out, not wanting to be bothered, all of that. And you were easy in that way, right? Like, I think even when you didn't want to be bothered or communicate or whatever, you would just say that. And so like, I'm not that great at just like knowing how to like navigate without communication. And so for me, I didn't have to like just figure it out. So I think like the person who's undergoing the care to like having a level of emotional intelligence to know that like these people are just worried about you, or they're just concerned. And while you're the one who does not feel good at all, they're present with you in it. And so just being willing to just say like, I don't feel good, even if you told one person and just had that person then communicated to the group like, hey, she's checked out, like, she's fine, but just like is really needing a rest, or just is in a sad place and doesn't want to communicate, goes a long way for the people who care about you, because while they're not experiencing the actual physical experience of it or whatever, they are having an experience with it too. And I think you were very balanced in that way of like recognizing that it was like, it's like, we don't go through things alone. We just don't. We go through them in community, even when it's our thing.
One of the things that we talked about before we came on is like, cancer life events don't happen like and life stops, right? So both of you had life situations happen over the past year, and were also so heavily relied upon for me. Like I know when I started, for those of you who remember, like I did 2 types of chemo. So the first one was the first 3 months, and then the last 2 months, which actually went a little bit longer because I took a bye week, was a very, very hard chemo. Like after you're already kind of wiped out, it's like, let's finish this off. Let's bring the let's bring the hurricane. And Zai, I know you stayed the night with me that first weekend, like, but you were traveling back and forth between 2 states. And so how, as a caregiver, did you all find balance for yourself? Like in, okay, this person needs me, and yet both of you have children, families, partners, and yet I still have to meet the needs of my own household too.
Well, I think it helps that I don't have young children. So I don't have the responsibility at this life stage to come home and cook dinner for anybody. So I have a freedom to go and move like I didn't 10 years ago. That certainly helps me in everything. And it helped me in my experience with you. I think there were times though where it did feel overwhelming, but it also felt like this has to be done. So, I would have my laptop with me on the side, and, we would watch TV on this side, and it felt like there were moments when it was challenging, but it never felt to the point where I couldn't ask for help if I needed help. And it also, I think I've learned that I don't always have to have an antidote, encouraging statement. I don't always have to have something to say. And I think what I've learned in this is that sometimes simply being available, the blessing, and the availability of companionship is something that I think that I've learned in this experience is actually very helpful. And just like to Nakeia's point, you were always kind. So it was like, even if you were having a very rough moment and you were really sad, or like I remember homecoming night, you were really you were crying in the car. You still were able to share what you were feeling in the moment and what would be helpful. And even when you didn't know what would be helpful, you also shared that honestly. So, and even when you didn't feel like maybe you didn't want a bunch of attention, or you would be able to tell somebody. So either one of us would get a message or you would text us individually. So I felt like because you were so communicative, it helped all of us, especially me. It helped me be able to manage it. And even the other demands of being a woman and all the other things that come with just adulting, that was a big part of it, helping me be able to bear the responsibility and all my other things I have in my life at the moment.
Yeah, you are like an ideal patient. No, I mean, honestly, I know you talk about like how you like, you would go up and down with being like really fearful, like between your fear and your faith. And I know that in those moments you felt like you weren't succeeding at getting through this journey. But in terms of how you treated the people who were showing up for you, and I think I said that to you one day, like you could be a bitch. Right. Like you could be a really like nasty person right now, and everybody would understand or would like make allowance for you being nasty, but you weren't. And I think that just made a huge difference in even people's like willingness to like make it work. So like, I do have a small child and a husband that I do have to cook for and stuff. So, and all of that, and my own things going on, but it even made it easier for like my family to be okay with
that's so
being
true.
present for you, because you treated me nicely too. You know what I mean? Like you didn't treat me like I had to do that for you or whatever. And it still was a joy to be with you and be around you and help care for you through that process. And so I wasn't ever coming home from being with you depleted, because you weren't just like taking, even though you didn't have anything to give, you were like, you did, in the sense that you were still, like being fully human, right? Like that you like your full humanity was present. And so it just was like easy to be there and to be like replenished and recognize like this is just a life season that you're in, and just show up for you.
But no, that's
And
such
your
a
humor. I'm telling you, maintaining humor.
That's so true. You should do a segment on that alone.
Yes.
Of humor
matters.
Yes,
but
really does.
Another point that you brought up, Nakeia, I didn't think about is that it did become a family. So it wasn't like, it was like my boyfriend was just like, "Are you or is Tari okay?" So, and then even if my children were not with me, my mom asked about you, my family, my brothers, and my father. So the updates became more than just me there. It was like people were understanding in my life that this is something that is necessary. So they would ask about you. So it became not just a support of your immediate friends. It was like support of our family and our spouses and our like people in our circle. So it was a shared investment all the way around. So they allowed, and were very much like, go ahead, go help, which they were able and willing to alter their schedules and their availability so that we could, and so that I could be available and support you.
Oh, thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Like even when I was away on like a trip for like Highland one time, like I'm like, we're in a session. I'm like, I gotta step out. I gotta like my sister, my sister wife is like, I think you had treatment that day, or you had something that day, and you really were like sad I was going out of town and not gonna be there. And
I think it was
like, I gotta like
rounds,
one of your AC rounds, and I was like, no, I gotta like step out and like check on her and make sure she's okay. And so like even they became invested in like me taking time to like check on you and make sure you were good.
One of the things that someone else has asked as well, because we asked people to send in questions when we said the conversations was going to happen about the role of caretaker, is the importance of honoring your own, and this kind of goes into that too, like honoring your own capacity. So one of the things that I really appreciated was when like I shared with some people and they were like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, this is, I can't do this," right? But no, I'm praying for you. No, I'm lifting you up. And that was really, really important. That was also very helpful for me because one of the things that has come into mainstream is something called cancer ghosting. So people between the ages of 25 to 49 are becoming one of the fastest or highest diagnosed groups getting cancer in recent years. And it's not typically a young person's disease, right? And so people have families, careers, and their friends don't know. Like we're used to like, let's meet for happy hour, not let's meet for chemo, and seeing people very, very sick. Like, Zai, you saw on the floor, like trying to get to the bathroom and like trying to navigate all of these things. And so how, I don't know what the question is, but how did you all still manage to show up, or anybody who is like someone very close to me got scared, and this wasn't in my book for how this friendship was going to turn, right? Like we're supposed to be doing this together. We're supposed to be getting the bag together or getting married together, or, cancer for women also impacts our fertility, like having babies together. Now this person is dealing with infertility issues. Like all of these are very, very real things that are also very, very new. And as a result, a lot of people are experiencing what is called cancer ghosting. And so, what would you say to any potential caregiver who's like, this is a lot to take on, right? This isn't what I planned, and I do have my own life, and I don't mean to go quiet, but I don't know how to sit with this or show up or whatever their feeling may be.
I think that's real. Like, yeah, and I think that there are that for some people, like illness, and I'm like, somebody comes to mind for me, like in my own life, that like I don't know that person would do that, and if it were me, but like I also wouldn't be surprised because I know they just really have a hard time with like illness and like mortality and like sort of seeing people not at their best. And I don't know, like it's like I get it, and also it's like part of me feels like, man, I would be like, well, then you can never see me at my best. You can never see me again if you can't like deal with me or see me at my worst. But I think it was never a question, sort of for me. But I do have a friend like from some younger years who was very ill, and like dying, and invited me to a birthday party, which may have been her last birthday or next to last. And I just could not go. I could not go to this birthday party and like see her there. And so I get that too, I guess, is like what I'm saying. Like I would call her, I could talk to her, I could not see her. In that space. And so I get, like, I know what it's like to see somebody change too over like time. And I think it's easier to experience somebody in illness when you get to see them on a regular basis. When weeks go by between visits and they're changing drastically, it is very hard.
Yeah.
It is very hard. And I think some people who go right to that part. Like they don't realize like that it's going to be like somewhat gradual, some of the changes. And I don't know if it's God's grace or what, but there's a level of grace in that. I think we still see that person, like when we go through it with them, like we see them as they are. Like, yeah, you see the changes, but I don't think you actually see them as looking as bad as they might look in a picture when you see them months down the line and they're on the other side of it, because there is some grace that you experience in like maybe in being present with the person. Maybe it's one of those life mysteries.
Yeah. And I think that so I think it is challenging to be and see your friend in a very difficult place when and I also think that what helped us is that there was a community, so no one person had the burden of the total care experience. The experience was shared in so many ways, and so if you could only do X, and if you could only comment, or if you could only show up here, I think that was helpful and meaningful in allowing the load to be shared. I also do think that it is very difficult. It was very difficult for me to see you so really sick, like honestly sick. And I remember coming over, and I remember how frail you've gotten. Right? So you're really small. And I remember your struggle just to walk, like just to go to different rooms. And I remember, coming to the room, coming upstairs, and you had this big thing of pills next to you. And I'm, right. So like we're girlfriends, we come over, and I'm not used to at this age, in this stage of life, going to my friend's house, my girlfriend's house, and my girlfriend being so sick. And not only sick, but and you're in the bed, you're in pain. So you're like you're crouched over because you had this terrible pain, you had this nausea. So we're sitting there, and then there's all these medications, and you have all these water bottles. And I just remember the scene and the feeling of that. I go, she's really sick. This is not just I don't feel good. This is not a tummy ache. This is not a body ache. This, like, my friend is fighting for her life. And I remember walking upstairs and seeing all that. And it was my weekend to spend the night. And I went downstairs, and I just had to sit with myself. Like, she's really sick. And she's in dire pain. And there's all these, and to see my lively sister friend go from this lively, beautiful, energetic, funny, caring, full of life, to barely being able to move was something that was really, really difficult to witness. And it was a lot to just process for myself. It was so much that I had to go downstairs and just sit with myself, so that I wouldn't not feed into is the wrong word, but like I wouldn't make you more sad by my own sadness. But that was probably one of the most difficult times I had ever experienced with you. And And then when we were trying to get you, I was trying to get you to eat. So I took a
Oh,
pause.
right. Yes. I could. Yeah.
You couldn't eat and you couldn't move. And it was just to see the physical excruciating pain that you were in and knowing there was nothing I could do about it. That visual is something that has stayed with me. I've never forgotten that visual. And it's even difficult to talk about because it was a lot to experience. But even in my experience, it wasn't me. Like, it's difficult to watch it. It's difficult to see it. But physically, what keeps me in it is that I'm not the one experiencing. So this is difficult for me. What is it like for the person experiencing the pain? So all I can do is help. So then it doesn't become an effort of like, is it too hard? Can I do this? It's like, how can I not do it? She's suffering. How can I not try to figure out a plate or some yogurt or let's get the dog or let's sit here and watch a movie in silence. Like it becomes like, let me figure out what I can do because I surely don't know what it feels like to experience that level of pain. And at that moment, all I can figure out is how can I help in my own way.
And I think I kept just seeing you on the other side, Tara. Maybe I didn't ever really like. I mean, when your hair was gone, when you lost your hair, and first when you lost your hair, because your hair went before your eyebrows.
Yeah, the AC took my eyebrows.
And so
like it was like,
but it was just hair. It was like, oh, okay, like you still didn't look like you had cancer to me. Yeah. And then when your eyebrows were gone, I was like, okay, now.
And I turned gray, right? So one of the things,
you lost your color.
It takes everything. It takes your melanin. So like,
yes.
So I was 50 shades gray. Like I remember turning gray one time while you were over here, and you were like getting ready to leave, and like I went.
Oh yeah, and then I couldn't leave you. Yeah, you turned gray, and I was like, what? No, I'm not leaving now. But I was never. When I saw you, any other times I saw you, I was never like scared about like where you were. And maybe, and I'm listening to Zion, I'm like, wow, like if this were my first experience with this, I think I probably would have been like more scared. But I watched my cousin die of cancer when she was 19 and I was 22. Like, and I watched it, like from my being 19 to her being 22 and her being 15 to 19. So I know what it looks like when somebody's like really, really at death's door, and it was just like, so I always saw you as like on the other side, right? Like I just kept seeing you like, oh, her hair's gonna come back soon. Like, even though it had just fallen out, like, oh, her hair's gonna come back. And she still got eyebrows. And like it was always just like seeing you, like I just kept seeing you as you were, and I know like I knew your hair was going to grow back so beautifully. And so I just kept thinking about that and like, oh, her hair's going, that's going to be cute when it's growing back. And it's always a little shortcut like it is now. Gorgeous. But I saw those moments, like the moment where you looked gray. And those moments were like, whoa, not like, oh my gosh, like what is going on? But like, whoa, she's not good in this moment. Like everything for me felt very moment to moment with you and not like whole picture.
So that leads me to I have two last questions, but one is before we get to that one, like how you were able to stay in the moment. So Zai shared that story, and I think like I've heard you tell me that one time. So one of the things that my village was very, very good about, Yashmia, no nails. I just got my nails done for the first time. So you can't have nails because one of the things that the chemo does is impact your nail bed. So a lot of people actually lose their nails or their toenails. Thankfully, I didn't lose mine, but mine did turn black. A lot of the toxins from the chemo settled on my nails and actually in my tongue. My tongue looked like a Dalmatian's tongue. It was so like for me, like the hair was the easiest thing to lose. I wasn't ready for a lot of the other side effects that come as a part of chemo. One of the things that I think my village and my caretakers were very good about was like bigging me up, right? So in that moment that Zai recalled, like I remember when she was here, and I didn't just have like a pill, like it was a cardboard box full of medication, right? Because you get like one medication begets another medication, right? We're giving you medication for this, and this is a side effect of this medication. So here's a medication for that, and then here's a medication for this. And so it is literally me, water bottles, as if I'm like in my bachelor pad, and a box of medicine. But I never knew, right? I never knew until after I had come out. And so, and then recently, so as a part of treatment, after you finish chemo, I continued on something called immunotherapy for the remainder of the year, which is supposed to be very, very helpful in like preventing recurrence with triple negative breast cancer. And one day I was at immunotherapy by myself, and it still accesses the same port. So I was there with and it's still, so chemo comes in through IV bags, right? And they're dark, like they can't be in the light. They have like all these warnings against them, like to get the AC, the person has on like the yellow suit, like the yellow covering. But Nakeia saw me getting immunotherapy. Like you called me and I answered the phone on video with, me, and you immediately were like, wait a minute, what's happening? What's going on? And you started tearing up too. Like what is happening? And one of the things that I want to acknowledge, like, that you all also, like, this is traumatic, and it's not just traumatic for me. Like, yes, it may be me experiencing this, but the trauma is shared, right? And so for other caregivers who are doing a great job, like you all would see me be like, yes, girl, you looking good today. I'm like, like she's like, y'all are lying. Like, no, I don't. Yes, I see. Yeah. I big eyebrows, to oh, they look good. I'm like, no, stop here. Like, you're lying. But like, y'all do such a great job of like, oh yes, girl, that medium is fitting you well. Like I'm like, I see you down to a small now. Why y'all lying? And so it wasn't after the fact until your trauma, right? Your experience came out. And so like what for other caregivers, not just like what you are doing, what do you say to other caregivers who are like, yeah, I'm holding it together for this person because I do see them on the other side. But right now in this moment, it's really, really hard to.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm being triggered by that too. So like what advice would you give to other caretakers who are holding?
I didn't even realize it. I didn't realize that I was like holding so much in terms of like emotions around it. I was never like scared, like you weren't gonna make it scared. Like I knew that, like 10 toes down, like for you and for me, I knew it. Like that wasn't my fear, but I was afraid of you worrying so much about it that you made yourself sicker. Like that was probably my bigger fear. And so I think I held that a lot. Like I was like tense around that mostly, but like seeing you in there again, like after, it was like in my mind, it's like, yay, it's over, we're done. And then like seeing you in there, I forgot you had to get that other treatment. And like, yeah, I don't think I've realized like being sad that you had to endure that to begin with, because it was go time. Like you made it very clear. You didn't talk much about your message to us, but your message was like, and don't be feeling sorry for me. Like, your message was very like, don't do it. And so, and I think most of us have experienced it. And I also have a mother who is like that, right? Like about whatever she's enduring, like she doesn't want to feel like her response to you in that way of like, and don't do that, and don't be, woo-wooing me, is more because she doesn't want to feel like a burden to other people. And so because I'm used to like that from her, like I know how to get information around not being the woo woo, oh, what was you? Like I know how to do that well. But the other side of that is you do end up holding what you're feeling, because you don't want that person to experience your feelings about it as pity towards them. So between that, you know, and again, I think having experienced that with somebody at a young age, and all the emotions that come with that, I just, you hold it until you can let it go. And like sometimes you're holding it because you need to hold it too, not just because that person asked you not to like drop it all at their feet, but sometimes like you need to hold it because you know you've got to stay present and in the moment. And fear is all about like what's coming. And there wasn't time for all of that. There was like I needed to be present for you, and so played my position. And it didn't feel like when I did have that moment where I saw you, it felt like the right time to release. Like that, you know, like it felt like that was divine.
Zai, any thoughts or comments for like you
Yeah.
caregivers? Like, what do you?
I feel like what really helped me was I didn't realize until you just mentioned it really that, you know, I mean, I recognize the vicarious trauma. I mean, I've learned that from Sage and I've learned that from you, Victoria, to give me y'all give me this terminology and this language around it. So I know logically that exists. I think in the moment I didn't really understand that was what was happening. And admittedly, honestly, I shared a lot with my boyfriend about like when I was afraid. I remember saying to him, you know, I lost my ex-husband tragically 5 years ago. And I remember saying, I can't lose Tara too. And so I did have a feeling of I remember I just felt like this is like she's fighting for her life.
Right.
And in this moment, I'm fighting with her for her life. And so I'm ready to go like 10 toes down. We have to figure out how this, like my friend needs to be here and I love her. She has to be here with me. And it did re-trigger a lot of feelings of loss from my ex-husband, even though it was entirely different scenario, but it made me feel a sense of inevitability about loss. And so my way of handling that was to talk about it with my boyfriend. And I think when I start, but my way of it was like, I used to read, I used to go and figure out and get like all the so I used to like, I was the friend who kind of like, you know, would read all of the information. And so when chemo came, I wanted to know what chemo was like. So I watched 15 chemo videos.
And I'm the exact opposite. I'm not reading none of it. I'm not watching none of it.
Zai joined support groups. She was like, I'm a part of this Red Devil support group. And because I also didn't want to know. So the doctors and really the techs like scared you so much, right? Like this is the aggressive form of cancer. I remember going to get a PET scan and the tech, and I actually asked the doctor to not tell me what type of cancer I had. Like, I don't know if you remember that, Nakeia, like we met, I was like, is there a way for me to not know? Because I don't need to know what the treatment is. Like, I'm going to do the treatment, right? So can you tell me, can you not? And they were like, no, we have to tell you. So you're not Miss Doty. You are patient 43 X years old, triple negative ductal carcinoma, right breast. Like literally that is on my chart. That's what they're reading, right? And that's how they're verifying who I am. And so I remember going for the PET scan and the tech was like, whoa, you have triple negative breast cancer. That's the tough one. Like you got to be, real aggressive. And I remember sharing that with my girlfriend Keena. She was like, well, tell him you're real aggressive too. like you all would get upset with the doctors. And so I remember Zai joined. Zai joined the support group. As her way of like, and I think this is important for caregivers too. Like Like that was what you needed to kind of be present. Like, okay, I know people have gotten through this, right? I'm reading this, and some people have done this first, and they've done this first. And I remember Zai spent the night with me. So with the second chemo, in addition to having like someone take me, it was recommended that someone stay with me for 3 to 4 days, those first 3 to 4 days, because you get so sick. And so I had chemo on Fridays. Somebody stayed Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then someone worked from my house Monday and Tuesday. Like that is how deep the village was, right? And so I just want to like buy everybody a short set and a car and an island, right? Because not only
your latest this what I'm gonna do for y'all had me like Tara.
Right. And so because how like there is I don't know, like how do you say thank you? You can't. Like there is nothing I can do, right? That will ever like repay and it's not a debt, but like that will ever speak to the gratitude I have for not ever being by myself, right? And there were moments where I was by myself, but people were still there. And so I think what Zai was talking about, like, and really speaking to like the caregiver experience is like finding out what, and both you too, like, what is it that I need in order to show up, for this person in this way? And you all are talking a lot about like me being communicative, but what I'm really hearing from you all as the caregivers is like there's a level of vulnerability that you all have to be willing to endure, and transparency too, because you all also need support.
Yeah,
like
that's true.
And I think I used to when I was in grad school, we used to do work with children with chronic and or terminal illnesses. And I remember that we were there and we had like a parent and support group and no one came. And the next week, like the doctor went off and he was like, I have buried more caregivers than I have patients. Like in my 15 years of doing this, I have gone to more funerals of caregivers than I have patients, because the caregivers are making sure, right, that the patients are going to every appointment. They're making sure that they're eating. They're making sure that they're getting that second opinion, all the while putting their own needs, their own families on the back burner, because all of their energy is focused into this person. And I think I was very like aware of that. And so I want to speak to that, like how, if you have a caregiver where it's only them, right? Like I am very blessed to have had a village that had depth and capacity. But like, what would you all say for the caregivers that it is me in this person that I am loving and praying and seeing them on the other side, and yet like I still have to go to work. I still have, I'm putting or delaying my own care.
Yeah. They need community. They have to have community. Like, and there are some, for those of you who are in the Baltimore area, there's Benty Circle. There's Mikey Miracle Foundation. Like there are some communities that were created specifically for and supports that were created specifically for caregivers, because it is a lot. Now, I have never, been just that like full-time caregiver, and like none of us were in this case with you. So I won't even begin to pretend, to speak to what it takes to care for somebody in that capacity, and to like make it like this weight of supporting you was anything close to what people endure when they are like the full-time caregiver, or it's just them and one other person, right? And it's 24/7. But absolutely, like they need community, and a community that like truly understands what that's like and has structures and supports in place that like help to lessen that load in whatever ways possible, and to communicate that to other people. I think sometimes you're in it and you're doing it, and you're, again, that whole like not wanting to be a burden to people, and this is my ex, whatever, my mother, my spouse, my child, or whatever. But people who have not been there and had to do that don't know how to support you. And so like just like saying the thing, like even if you don't always know, like if there's anything like that you know that you can say, to just like to be willing to like ask for it, and know that like if you just put it out there, it might not be the person that you asked it of, but now it's out there, and like the universe is going to sweep in to support you, right? Like God is going to sweep in to like to send somebody. So many people have somebody that supports them through really hard times that like is not the person that they would have expected. But like putting it out there, like what you need, would be the thing that I would say. And again, this is me saying that, having not had that experience.
Sarah, anything?
No.
Okay. So as we get ready to wrap up, who could have gone? No, an hour goes by so fast. Yes, and time flies when you are being loved on. As we think about like rounds of applause and, you know, giving the caregivers some, and, you know, really, there's so many other women who I have met where like our sentiment is the same. Like I would not have gotten through this had it not been, you know, for my village. Like filling in the gap, not just for me, but for my children as it relates to work. Like, again, like Zai, me finding out I had cancer during a work thing. And so as we wrap up, like how, I don't, you know, and it's not even like a how do we say thank you, but as a caregiver, I know one of the joys I am looking for is, right, is paying this forward, right? Like I cannot wait to support someone the way that, like an oomph of the way that I have been supported. And I remember telling both of you, like, what this experience taught me is like, I want to be a better friend. Like I want, you know, show up more and, you know, hold space more. But as we get ready to wrap up, like, I don't know, like what has this journey taught you about like friendship, relationships, sisterhood, village support, community, like it, and I think, you know, especially now in these times where we need community more than ever, but like the power of community, in sharing the load, because it's really just like a passing of the load, right? At times.
Yeah.
Any closing reflections or thoughts on that?
You taught me how to be a friend even when I'm going through. You say you want to be a better friend, but the care that you received is a reflection of your friendship, the friendship that you give. So it taught me how to, you know, keep humor, and how to wrestle with, you know, my fear and vulnerability and all of that, and still like show up for the thing. Not go to Mexico when I'm supposed to go to chemo. Right. No, but honestly, like how to like be like completely vulnerable in it, and how that vulnerability, I think it is your vulnerability, and you like being willing to say like I'm scared, and I'm like of all, like that allowed you to stay soft, right? And allowed you not to become mean. And I think sometimes when people become mean and nasty because they're scared, and they won't just say that they're scared, and you know that makes them lash out. And so I think you taught me how to like lean into like all those feelings so that I can stay myself in really hard times.
I remember that when I found out I had cancer, I was sitting next to Nakeia. She was over here first. And I was like, what if I die? And she was like, you might. And I was crying and I stopped.
Y'all, I think I'm a little bit on the spectrum. So it's okay. And Tara knows that. But I also have no fear of death. Like I'm not afraid of dying. And I think like like leaning into it because it's gonna happen to all of us. Like,
so yes, I think like okay, well, I'm gonna have these conversations. But Zai, like anything that you would just share as like Nakeia, I'm hearing that too, like for caregivers to lean into their own experience too.
Yeah.
Zai, anything for you that this like that your journey alongside, like or with like I don't feel like you like y'all were in the trenches with me, like
Yeah. I think, yeah, definitely it taught me how to be a better friend. It taught me about like how to not be on and how to really share in a really honest way my feelings and my emotions, and to Nikki's point, being vulnerable about, because you would share very openly about your fears and your concerns and when you were nervous, and so because you did share so openly, it allowed me to feel comfortable in sharing openly about how I was feeling, and then also like assessing a situation to know that maybe there was a moment where you just needed more empathy, maybe there was a moment where you need more understanding, and so then being able to just like listen intently, and then from listening determining where you were at the moment, but also because you do share and you were very communicative about your feelings, it helped me be able to better adapt and better support you, and also better like be able to support myself in the process. And then because you allowed us all to individually be who we are, like you recognize that, yeah, I do process in the way where I like to process information. I'm going to read it, and I'm going to assess it, and I'm going to synthesize it, and then I'm going to make my conclusion, and then I can jump in. And so knowing that like the first chemo session, you knew I was going to probably read a whole bunch and look at 27 chemo videos. And then when we were doing the Red Devil,
mm-hmm.
right? Then it was like I watched a whole bunch of stuff about that and I read through it. So when I was prepared I could prepare myself for what was to come. And that sort of preparation is something I think that you allowed me to have. You knew that was my process, and you didn't try to change my process. You just understood that was the way I function, and you just allowed it. So knowing that you were there to support me in that way and allow me to be me and allow me to support you in the way that suited me, but also was very caring for you, I think is why it worked so well. And it taught me about everyone shows up differently when you need support. And it may not look in the way that you, it's like everyone doesn't follow a script. And so letting people be their selves in supporting you is something you allow all of us to do and help you out in so many different ways. And that really helped it be an experience, I think, that made it easier of a lift. And it's why I didn't feel like, that's why tonight I'm having to really think about it, because in the moment, it didn't feel like a heavy lift. In the moment, it felt like this is what has to be done for my friend who I care deeply about. And so it really didn't require a lot of effort. It just required love. And that's not a requirement. I already love you. So when I love you, and because I love you, I'm going to do what's necessary for you to be okay.
Oh, thank you, ladies. I think for me, and I'll end on this note too. I remember soon after, so when I finished chemo, we turned the hospital out. Like we had 25 people in person, like 45 people online via Zoom. And I remember afterwards that afternoon, my daughter said to me, like, I think you are the luckiest person who ever got cancer.
That was so nice.
Yes, and like, and I hold that because this was my first experience, and I think for me, like, for anybody who has gone through this, like, having a village who allows you to also be yourself, right? Like, I have health anxiety, so I'm gonna take this and I start with dying and then work my way down. Like, oh, okay, it's a paper cut. Okay, well, like I can deal with it. And and my village was very understanding and patient and gracious with me. But to really just give everybody in my village their flowers for never missing a beat, and I mean that, like, my feet never hit the ground, and to have my daughter and my children see how people came together, even people who weren't in the WhatsApp group, from their dads to my dad to my cousins to my classmates, like people who weren't in that immediate group who still were like, I'm gonna do whatever I can do to to be present or whatever. And so So I just want to thank everybody. Thank you all so much. Thank you everybody on the It's Dr. Tara community for showing up. And I think, like, you know, my takeaway is that we need each other, and it's okay to be your authentic self in needing someone.
Yes.
Like, you know, I would worry, like, am I being too much? And you all were great reminders of, like, no, like no, you know, there's no rule book or script. And so allowing, you know, all of the fear to kind of take a seat, so that, you know, when we show up authentically, we can be loved fully. And so just thank you all so much. I love you both very, very much. Thank you all for joining us and sitting with us, and, you know, just being a part of this conversation for the month of October. And you know, I can't say and stress enough how much we need each other. Like, healing happens in community. And so thank you all for being a part. Like, you know, I'm still in this journey, and so for still being a part of this process and this journey too.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. As always, let's heal together, everyone. Peace.
Good night.
Bye.